Honoured to be here and very grateful for the opportunity on behalf of Hewlett-Packard and also on behalf of the private sector, because I'm going to try and make my comments relevant to as much of us from the private and business sector as possible in a generic kind of a way. So we look forward to your participation and questions subsequent to the presentations. So the topic is acceptable solutions for all stakeholders in an attempt to recover the costs from the infringer. Well, it's thanks to organizations like WIPO, WCO, Interpol, BASCAP and Inter that we are here and able to discuss this important topic over the course of these 2 days. HP is a member of BASCAP, and I'll talk a little bit about them and some of the work that they're producing at the moment, because I think it's very relevant to what we're going to talk about this morning. BASCAP has released a paper on the estimating the global economic and social impacts of counterfeiting and piracy, which is available from their stand. And the reason I highlight this is because what I want to do before we get really stuck into the conversation is just to make sure we're all on the same page about the size of the problem that we're dealing with from an industry point of view. The OECD study a couple of years ago estimated the problem in the range of $250 billion a year. While a recent study which BASCAP has been involved with sets that quite a bit higher, taking a number of other factors into account in the range of $400 to $600 billion a year. So I think we can all say it's a pretty big problem. Counterfeit goods are not made by the rights holder. They're not transported or imported by the rights holder. They're not the property of the rights holder. And they're not sold and distributed by the rights holder. And we derive absolutely no profit from counterfeit goods. Who loses? Counterfeits damage industries, the reputations and prospects of the rights holders. They cause potential or actual harm, as has been extensively documented in recent years, to citizens of our countries, loss of revenue, duties and taxes to government, and they damage nascent industries in a local environments. Employment and legitimate trade are hampered where counterfeit is manufactured and distributed. And who benefits? The organized criminals who produce and sell counterfeits, and the participants in the supply chain who are paid to distribute and transport and deliver the counterfeit goods, knowingly or unknowingly. And I think, as perhaps we'll see later on, there are examples of both. And the profits from the sale of these goods go to organized crime, to furthering the activities of organized crime. Who pays at the moment? Well, we've heard some acknowledgement from the speakers already that the costs fall currently to law enforcement, the state, and to the rights holders. So some common scenarios because that we deal with and I deal with from a day-to-day basis with my team. At a customs border seizure, the product is seized, the rights holder identifies them as counterfeit, and from that point we have the opportunity to start a legal action, and we're generally responsible for the storage costs from that point and for their destruction. We may get a court ruling enabling us to get the cost back from the importer, the originator of the counterfeit products, and as we've heard already, it's often very difficult or impossible to make that process work. If a police case is conducted internal to a country, it's obviously usually a criminal case, and all costs are generally speaking borne by the police and the state, the storage and destruction. If it's a civil process, which we launch ourselves, and we do that often, frequently, then as a rights holder we bear the costs for that process and have the opportunity to recover them from the defendants, if we get a judgment in the case. So I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to go into technical legal issues, but we see both under the TRIPS process and the excellent, which has excellent provisions, and the European Regulation 1383, which has some very, very good provisions and has been continuously developed and improved with active partnership from the business over the last few years. Things which need working on and improving and developing. We need, from a rights holder's perspective, to see a number of further developments in this process. So we've heard about this simplified procedure, and I'll just make a quick comment about that. It's a fantastic process in the EU. However, it's not implemented across the board. There are many countries who have not implemented the simplified procedure. There are national legislation issues, and in some cases, even when the simplified procedure is implemented, storage can continue for some considerable time, and costs mount up. The counterfeit problem is not going to go away. The volume is growing. It's becoming more and more criminalized, and we think that the supply chain, which Patrick talked about very eloquently, is where we should be focusing. All participants bear some responsibility, and in some cases liability, in the distribution of counterfeits from where they're manufactured to where they're passed on to the public. And we, as industry, want to see this as a joint process going forward, where all parties play an active and equal role in trying to find the best solutions. So if we move on to some examples, I'll just give you from my industry, and I'm not going to identify the companies concerned, just to give you an idea of the kinds of costs that some of us are bearing. One case here, $30 million worth of goods seized in the Middle East, a monthly storage cost of $12,000 a month,